Hi, welcome to TimeControl Project. Over the next few minutes, we're going to show you this new edition of time control that we think you'll find very exciting. And so let's get right to it, shall we? Time Control Project is a premium version of Time Control Online and Time Control Industrial Online that allows you to get a completely new perspective on how project management works. We've taken all the flexibility that has served time control so well for all these years, and we've now poured it into how do you get the same kind of flexibility in doing project planning. And the first thing that we thought of is we really want to be able to have different perspectives in project planning, as opposed to thinking everything is one just long list of tasks that people at different levels of the organization see. So we thought about the different levels of the organization, and we divided that into three areas, which we'll call the strategic level, people who are at the executive decision-making level of the organization, and think about not just a project, but all projects. Think about the corporate requirements, thinking long-term about where the business is heading and how to make it viable, how to make it successful. At the operational level, people that we think of as project planners, maybe the project management office, and resource managers, people who are managing the work that will be done by people at the tactical level, people who are at the front line. So that's their team leaders, people who do the work, who report their progress, and are able to move projects forward. When we think about what these different levels of the organization need, at the strategic level, you're thinking about things like the annual budget, maybe next year's budget. You're thinking about resource capacity. Do I need to hire people? Do we have too many? Do we have the wrong mix of people? And we're thinking from a portfolio standpoint, what is the project priorities? At the operational level, we're thinking very much like a project manager has always thought. I have this project to complete. Maybe I have several projects to complete. I'm thinking over the next few weeks, do I have people in the right positions? Do I have the right resources? I may be looking forward to next month or the month after, but I'm not looking over the next few years. I'm looking over the coming weeks. And I may be assigning teams, or I may be even assigning resources to do that work. If I'm a resource manager, I may be putting people into teams to be able to do a certain project. And at the tactical level, well, we have people who go, listen, I'm just looking through the balance of this week. Tell me what you want me to do this week. I will do it. I'll update you on my work, and I will work with the team to make sure that we can move forward. So we're going to go move forward and take a look at these different levels. I'm going to start from the tactical, move my way to the strategic, and we'll take a look inside Time Control Project right now. Okay, here we are in Time Control Online, and I've logged in as Gail Robinson, who is an individual. I'm going to take a look at Time Control Project from 4 different levels, starting with Gail, who is really there just to do her work. When she clicks on Time Control Project, she sees a very short list of views, and Time Control Project is organized into different types of views that is appropriate for her work. So she can come in and take a look at her work list by priority to see what work has been assigned to her, and she gets that in an agile type of Kanban type board. What's in the backlog, what's to do, what's in progress, what's complete. As she completes something, she can move it from to do to in progress, and from in progress to completed, and we can see that the hours at the top of the page change. This kind of view is organized into different kinds of categories, and even the color coding around the cards is organized by user-defined fields in time control. You don't have to follow these 4 columns. In fact, in a moment, we'll show you different views like this that have different columns. You define what columns exist for you based on what's important, and those are all defined using time-controlled user-defined fields. But work inside this view is as easy as dragging things from one place to the other. Now, she cannot drag things that she doesn't have the right to. She can't do that because there's multiple assignees on that card, and so that kind of thing is protected in the system. If we go back to Gail's list, we can see a list in a bit of a different format where she just sees to do, in progress, and done. And it's not organized by urgent or not urgent. She can say, yeah, this is to do. I'm working on that now. And you can see the number of hours changes at the top. She can say, I've completed that now. and it can be moved to the right. So this is where an individual comes in the morning, sees the work that's been assigned to them, can quickly organize the work that they would like to start on right now, and they can start showing their progress by simply dragging those cards from one area to another. This is just one type of view, but we're only looking at things from the perspective of an individual so far. These items may be items that are managed at a higher level on a project management system, but they may not. They may be something very simple that's managed in what Time Control calls a task list, and a task list won't affect the overall project standing. It'd be more of like a to-do list that you would do beneath the level of a project. So let's go back into the system now, but let's go in as the person who assigned this work, Diana Jacobs. Diana Jacobs, when she clicks on Time Control Project, she gets a bit of a longer list. She's still looking at an all boards list, but she is a team lead. Diana has her own work, of course, but she's also a team lead for people like Gail, and she can operate as a Scrum Master, and so she can, for example, see things for an entire team, not just one person. Here we see we have a bunch of tasks that have not been assigned, and then scrolling down, we can see that different people have work assigned in this project. And if we we look at Joe, we have Chris Peters. This work too can be made into simply saying this is a longer term project or a higher priority project simply by dragging it. Again, assignments can be done from here if you have the rights to make those changes. We can decide in Time Control Online Security whether you have the right to change this view, to edit a card, to add an assignment, and so on. So all of that kind of thing can be done directly here. Now I can go back to the list, but if we were just looking at different boards, as we saw that Diana does, she can take a look at things very simply. She can look just at the backlog list and say, you can see now that we only have 2 columns. We're no longer in a Kanban type board. And she can say 10.4, yeah, that belongs over here now. It's ready to go into to-do. And then it can be taken by individuals and assigned, or it can be moved from one area to another in other views that may not see the backlog. So from this view, pretty straightforward to see what is available from her perspective. There's one more view here that Diana might view as a reader, not so much as an editor, but it's a list of commitments. And the commitments were probably managed by the project manager to say, are we ready to move forward with this? Are we committed to this or not? Here we can see we have quite a number of tasks, 700 hours or so of tasks that are undecided. And then management has decided, no, we're never doing that feature. Yes, maybe we will do that feature, maybe in the future. You can see that the columns now don't look like a Kanban board at all, although it's the same structure of moving data back and forth. And this can be done because we can create these views based on user-defined fields that Time Control can create. So you can create views with as many columns as you want. In this case, someone like Diana may be saying, all right, well, we are going to move this on into future work. And simply by dragging it, we see how that goes. Here you can see that I have different colors. These have been organized, in this case, by severity, or how important they are, by the priority. And that is a field, again, that we have in the editing of this view. So each of these views can have different effects, and they're designed so that they're appropriate to whoever's looking at them at the time. Okay, let's get out of Diana Jacobs, and I'm going to switch over to the project manager who was creating some of those commitments, Tom Logan. Tom, we'll go back to his list. We can see Tom has a bit of a different list. He's got that work commitment status, so he can move things into a committed versus non-commitment view. But he's also got a couple of other things. He can see a Gantt chart with resources or without on them. And so for Tom, just drag that over a little bit. We can see that we have a list of resources. Down at the bottom, we have a showing of some of the resource capacity that's been put in for those projects. We can change the time scale by simply clicking on the plus or minus, and we go from months to weeks. and we can expand that out and go into more detail. But this looks very much like project managers would be doing, looking at the tasks and projects for them to manage. If this is a charge code-based view, then we're very careful about making sure that the data in this view doesn't accidentally change the charge code items that may be managed in the charge table. If this is a task-based view, then we can insert tasks, drag and drop. We can change the hierarchy. We're in more of a planning mode in a task-based view. You can see that here we can determine based on filters what projects do we want to see, what information do we want on there, and we can hide some of these views, get rid of the filters. I can get rid of the resource allocation and look just at the bar chart if I prefer. I prefer it much more with the resource allocation on. So there we go. So this is all ways that you can quickly manipulate the data that you're seeing from a perspective that may be of use. An individual doesn't care about this. They don't need to see every task in order. But if you did have individuals who needed to, you could make this view available, perhaps only for their own assignments, or only for their assignments plus others that are relevant to them. For Tom, he can see information like this, pretty common project manager view. He also might be looking at the work commitment view, where he's going to decide that we're going to move things from backlog to, yes, we're going to focus on it in the future, and yes, we're going to work on it right away. That would be a common thing for a resource manager or a project manager to do at Tom's level. He also might want to look at last month's invoice for a project. And the Sheets view in TimeControl can create things like an invoice with all of the different items in that invoice that were appropriate to that project. I'm going to show you some more Sheets view in a moment, because I'm going to switch from a project manager now to someone at the strategic level. As we promised, we would end up at the strategic level, where an executive like Chris Peters, who is the Chief Operations Officer, has a very different perspective on how project management works. They may want to see all the projects as a Gantt chart. That may be a view. In our experience, that's not really that common. We can say, well, let's take a look at what projects we want to see there, and we can say, let me just collapse that all, so I get one line per project, zoom out, and now I'm looking at numerous projects to which I may have an interest. In our experience, this is not the most common way executives want to see data about their project. They're much more likely to work in an Excel mode, to say, I would like to see, I'd like to do my planning for next year's budget or for the remainder of this year's budget. And so I'd like to be able to see that information. And I'll give myself a little bit more room by turning off the filters. I'd like to be able to see that information like an Excel sheet. And so I can also filter to say, show me only certain information. This sheet is very interesting. Here on the left, I have information you can see up in the top in the formula that's coming straight out of TimeControl's posted records. I also have that's for the budget and for the cost to date. This is coming from posted records in TimeControl. So that's the costs from the timesheets that TimeControl has already accepted. If we scroll to the right, we have the sum of that, just like we would have in other parts of Excel, and then a whole bunch of information that could be typed in or could come from formulas. At the top of the screen, we've made a budget per month of $500,000, say whatever that is, 500 people. How much has been allocated? How much is remaining to be allocated in that month? And working across the table, I can allocate certain amounts of money to projects per month. I could do the same thing by hours if I preferred. Everything on this screen works just like Excel. In fact, it's so much like Excel that I can download that copy to Excel. I can even upload a copy from Excel to create a Sheets view. So I can move data back and forth from that kind of format, enter data where I would like to type it in myself, pull it from TimeControl where it's more appropriate to pull it from there. And so I have a mix of information coming calculated from TimeControl, information I'd like to put in myself, and the formulas that are important for me to look at as I'm allocating data. In the same way, different people at the executive level may say that I'm looking at information. I'd like to look at them a little bit differently. Let me see a monthly summary per project with a chart. Well, now I'm looking at the budget, the actual cost, and remember these came out of time control. The budgets were typed in, and the chart was made just the same way you would make it in Excel. So this is our monthly, our monthly project by cost. Same kind of thing here by hour. For people who say, "Oh, no, we all work in man hours," great. Here you go. I can show you that we're over or under what we expected, and again, an Excel chart with costs, where some of the data is being pulled right out of time control. Some of the data may be a formula. Some of the data may be maybe typed in, and you decide how that sheet should look. You want to have a chart in it. You want to have the costs. In this case, I'm looking at the formula for remaining budget is just a formula here, but the actual cost coming straight out of time control. The budgeted cost coming straight out of time control. That's the project names coming out of time control, and a list of whoops, we went a little too fast. A list of where we're at in actual cost versus budget and what's remaining. So all of that in a list of views in 3 different view categories. We have a sheets view, like a spreadsheet. We have a Gantt view with bar charts. We have board views in which we put on cards into columns. And each of those views is configurable how you want for the particular people who need to see it. That's a very different take on project management. It's like project management catered to your perspective from where you are in the organization. Okay, let's wrap this back up. We have just a couple of more slides to show you. Okay, so that was Time Control Project Live. Time Control Project is a premium version of Time Control Online or Time Control Industrial Online. It is not expected to be a part of Time Control on-premise. HMS software has been around for quite some time. We have clients all over the world. People are working on their timesheets in virtually every time zone around the planet. And we have been around since the 1980s. Time Control has been a product since 1994. And we are in many different industries, working with some of the largest organizations around the world. We'd be happy to talk to you about our other clients and where Time Control and Time Control Project may be of interest. If you'd like more information about Time Control Project, we encourage you to go to project.timecontrol.com. If you'd like to find out more about Time Control, www.timecontrol.com, and you can always email us through the website or directly at info@hms.ca. Thanks for your time today. Bye now.